What's up? This is Cody the Coin Raptor coming at you with another Bitcoin focused episode. And in today's video, I want to talk about the potential short squeeze of $4 billion worth of shorts when it comes to Bitcoin, the reason why Bitcoin's gone up so much, and what I think could be the future Bitcoin price by the end of the year. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that like button, and be sure to follow me on X and Threads. Bitcoin is up a lot. Bitcoin went all the way from the bottom here at about 53K down to where it is, up to where it is right now, about 66,000 right now. We've seen it push above the crucial resistance line here at about 64,000, and now it's trending more sideways. Now, this is all during a time in which is normally seen as a weak month for Bitcoin. So traditionally speaking, September is a weak month for Bitcoin. However, this happens to be the strongest September, the highest gains in September in Bitcoin's entire history. So we have another couple of days left in the month, but it is likely that we will wind up seeing this as the best September in Bitcoin's history. Now, normally when it comes to September, as I've been saying before, it's a minus 3% on average or about a 4% on the median. Now, this usually leads to a strong October, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. Now, with Bitcoin's rise, it has largely been attributed, at least in my opinion here, to the fact that the Fed has been cutting rates. If you go ahead and take a look at I'm going to layer here the Fed funds rate here in this kind of maroonish color. The Fed funds rate, when you compare it to Bitcoin, we're going to zoom out here a little bit. I've talked about this a lot here, but it's really important to bring up the fact that the Fed funds rate tends to move opposite of Bitcoin. So when the Fed funds rate goes down, Bitcoin tends to go up. When the Fed fund rate goes up, Bitcoin tends to go down. Now, it's a correlation. It's not a perfect system. There's some times in which, for instance, the Fed funds rate goes up and Bitcoin goes up. But normally, when the Fed starts cutting rates, this is seen as kind of an on-ramp to speculative assets, and Bitcoin is seen by many of investors as speculative. However, I would disagree with that. But anyways, the point is that when the Fed starts cutting rates, Bitcoin tends to be a prime beneficiary. And that's one of the reasons why we've seen in September Bitcoin rising so much. The Fed cut rates by about 0.5%. And as a result, we saw a large increase to the Bitcoin price. Now, if we take a look at the CME FedWatch tool, which gives us an idea of prediction of the Fed's what they're going to be doing in their next meetings. Go here and take a look at the 7th of November. That's their next meeting. And the consensus right now is that there's going to be another 50 basis point cut or another 0.5% cut in November. Now, if this happens, Bitcoin is going to take off like a rocket, just like we saw in the last cut. Okay, 50 basis points, even 25 basis points in November, November 7th. That is going to be very bullish for Bitcoin. And the reason why this is important is because there is a large amount of Bitcoin shorts that are just chilling out right now. So if we take a look at our liquidation heat map, we can see here that if you look at, there are actually multiple bands here, but there's a band here at about almost 67,000 of almost $2 billion worth of shorts that are chilling out at this level here. Now, if you go a little bit higher, you can see that slightly above that, $300 above that, there's another pool of liquidity for shorts sitting at 67,250. So there's a massive amount of liquidity that's sitting here right at about 67K. Now, if we get that cut, and I think it's likely we'll get that cut, these shorts are going to get blasted. They're going to get squeezed, and the Bitcoin price is going to rocket higher like we've seen in the past. Now, sitting above this roughly $4 billion worth of short liquidity is another huge level of short liquidity. We can see here up almost about $2 billion at about 70K, 70,300. And if we do get that short squeeze here from 67, I think it's very possible we can get a move up to 70K. And then a move up to 70K will mean another level of cascading shorts will get squeezed and push the Bitcoin price higher. And so that's why I think that it's actually a pretty good chance that we'll wind up seeing Bitcoin at a new all-time high before the end of the year. Now, I'm not the only person who thinks this. The consensus tends to be right now that Bitcoin is going to see a new all-time high by the end of the year. If you take a look at the Poly Market, which is a betting service specifically founded on crypto, there is according to the bets that have been placed, there's a 59% chance that Bitcoin will see a new all-time high in 2024. So this is again more of a consensus, at least among people who are betting on the crypto markets. They're saying 59% chance, and this is actually down from the 27th of September, but that's still well in excess of a majority of people who think that there's going to be a new all-time high in 2024. Now, Bitcoin has seen bullish momentum. We've seen not only the price moving above 65K, but dominance continues to be higher and higher and higher. And so we talk about Bitcoin dominance. That's the Bitcoin share of the crypto market continues to move higher. It went all the way up to about 58% and came back down again. And it's following this 50-day EMA, which is about 57% right now. That's the support for the current run up for Bitcoin. So we've seen Bitcoin take a dominant share of the crypto market, and it continues to climb higher and higher and higher. We're also seeing a large amount of inflows to the Bitcoin spot ETFs. If you take a look at our so value dashboard here, we can see that on the 26th, so last Friday, we had a large inflow, almost $500 million going to Bitcoin spot ETFs. And that followed another day, the day previous, that you saw another increase, 365 million, and then another couple of days before that, and that kind of culminates in almost an entire bullish week in which you saw large inflows to the Bitcoin spot ETFs as the Fed was cutting rates and investors were trying to get into quote unquote speculative assets. So this is something I think is going to continue to increase, to move forward, and it's going to drive the Bitcoin price also much higher as well. Now, I also want to go over the idea that Bitcoin potentially could be overvalued at this point, because we're sitting at a price that's about higher than we were over the past couple of months. So it's sitting at a price at about almost 66,000. Now, if we take a look at our Bitcoin MVRV Z-score, this is the market value over the realized value. Taking the difference between the market value and the realized value, the market value is the kind of like the total crypto, the total Bitcoin market cap, and then dividing it by the realized value, which is like an average cost basis for the market. And then you get this thing called a Z-score. So the Z-score gives us an idea of how overvalued or undervalued Bitcoin is relative to the market. And we tend to see that during the bull market tops, Bitcoin, the Z-score goes all the way up to 7. And lately, we've seen a peak of about 3 or almost 3 back in March. Now we're sitting at 1.86, which is lower than Bitcoin normally trades at. So we zoom out here, we take a look at the entirety of Bitcoin and its history. You can see the bull markets and the bull market tops very nicely represented by the Z-score. And so Bitcoin still has quite a ways to go. We're not even above 2 just yet. We're sitting at about just under 2, with the potential of it going up to probably around, I would say, 6 or 7 or so. So this is maybe even a 3x opportunity that we're looking at from the Z-score. So this is something to keep in mind. This is one of the primary tools I use to determine whether or not Bitcoin is undervalued or overvalued. Now, the other thing I like to take a look at is the exchange reserve. In the exchange reserve right now, the number of Bitcoin on exchanges continues to plummet and plummet and plummet and plummet. It just goes lower and lower and lower. This is the 1 year, okay, of the Bitcoin exchange reserve. We can see it's stuck at about 3 million or so at the start of the year. Now, or about a year ago, and now it's sitting at about 2.5 million. So we've seen almost about 500,000 Bitcoin leave exchanges over a year. And in fact, if you extrapolate this out to the all-time, you can see here that it's this trend has been accelerating over the last year as people have been piling into Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin from exchanges. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is what the options market has been doing. So options market, very important to determine what traders are up to and what their expectations are for the Bitcoin price by the end of the month. And we go over here to Deribit, and we figure out that the 25th of October, at the end of October, the largest number of expiries for calls and puts, we're sitting at about 3 billion or so, but I expect that this is going to rise as time goes on, and the max pain price of 62K. So right now, traders are they're basically trying to, if you believe in max pain price, the price is going to coalesce around the 62K region towards the end of October, and I think that this is really below where I think it will wind up before the end of October. This is actually pretty low. But the other thing I want to draw your attention to is on the 27th of December, or so the end of the year, we have $5 billion worth of calls and puts expiring. And if we go ahead and take a look at that day, you can see here that the max pain price is only 60K. So this is really low. I definitely think that there's a strong possibility we'll be well in excess of 60K by the end of the year. However, the traders in the options market right now apparently don't seem to think so. Though I will say that there is a rather large bullish contingent that's sitting here at about strike price of 100,000. But this tends to be there, or it has been there for a good chunk of the year. So there's a lot of calls and a lot of puts, and right now it seems like the puts have kind of dragged the price down. This max pain price here at about 60K. But when it comes to October, they're expecting 62K by the end of the month, and I think that this is going to be much higher by the end of the month. Now, coming back to October, when there's a strong September, there's also a strong October. We saw that back in 2023. We saw that back in 2016, 2015. Anytime that there's a green September, there's also a green October. Not to say there's always a possibility that could be wrong, so we could see some changing trends, but October is normally the strongest month for Bitcoin gains. This is something I've been talking about. 22% on average gains for October, and a 27% median returns for October. So this is absolutely going to be a pivotal month for Bitcoin to see if it can finally overcome the strong resistance levels that we've seen at 70K and above 70K. And I think that as soon as Bitcoin climbs past that 67K region that I talked about with this massive liquidity sitting here, it could potentially push higher than that, go up to 70K, burn these shorts here, and then move even higher than that, going back to the all-time highs by the end of the year. But let me know what you guys think. If you think that's a possibility, if you've been buying, if you've been selling. I've held the Bitcoin that I bought so far. I have no intention right now of selling, but if Bitcoin continues to move higher and higher and higher, I may consider that. Let me know what you guys are doing in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.